Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation to the groups at Fino Vista and putting on this awesome event. Super quality, high-quality content. I've loved the day. I was here from the morning. I have a request from Vincente. As he's walking off, he's telling me to take off my tie. So I'm obedient, and I'm a guest here, so. All right, you happy? So this will be fun. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you and sharing some fun insights that I've gained over the years. And so I'd like to get a sense of who's in the audience right now. How many of you, and I saw earlier the hands went up, but how many of you are entrepreneurs that are just waiting? All right, this is great. We're going to have a great conversation. We'll have a workshop. And then how many consider yourself investors? About half dozen or a dozen so. All right, so this is going to be an entrepreneur session. Perfect. So I'm an entrepreneur. I turned to the dark side a few years ago, but in my heart, I'm just an entrepreneur. And every 2 years since I've been a kid, I've started up a business, I've sold it or shut it down, and I've done that over and over again until I sold my second software company, and then I created a venture fund. It was too tempting. I sold out, I'm sorry, but I'm really just an entrepreneur disguised as an investor. And I want to share with you some of the insights that I've gained over the years as doing it from both sides of the table as an entrepreneur, launching and raising venture capital, taking all the way through liquidity event, and then on the investment side of the table. Now, a lot of people will stand up and talk about how we can guarantee or how we're going to make your company successful. And so what I'm an expert in is failure. And so I have identified and predict, and I can engineer failure. And unless you think I don't have failure credentials, here's some of my failures up there. I've invested over $500 million over the past almost 20 years. And we had a few companies that didn't work out. In fact, I've learned more lessons from my failures than I have my successes. And now, unless you think I haven't had any successes, we've had a few. We've sold a few companies. We've taken a few companies public. But what I want to talk about is the root causes of failure and how to help the entrepreneurs in the room increase their odds of getting it right. And why do I care about that? Because the reality is most startups fail. And they fail for lots of different reasons. There's way more reasons than are listed here on the board. But to the entrepreneurs in the room, I have great empathy for you. I've been there. I've gotten the mortgage. I've cranked up my credit cards. I've working through the weekends and all the stress that comes with putting everything on the line to be an entrepreneur. What I want to share with you is some insights how to increase the odds of success. This is not going to be a guarantee, but this will incrementally increase your odds of getting it right the first time. So, lesson number 1. If you want to fail, launch your company or your product without a specific customer in mind. Now, I shared this with my brother, and it reminded him of a story of Homer Simpson. And to set it up, Homer finds out that he has a long-lost brother that owns a car company called PM Motors. And so, of course, Homer gets himself a job at his brother's car company, and this clip is kind of interesting.
Okay, Homer, pick out anyone you want.
Are you sure you want to give me a car?
Hey, you know what these things cost me? There's maybe $40 worth of steel in them.
Oh, okay. I'd like a big one then.
We don't have a big one.
Why not?
Because Americans don't want big cars.
Well, then give me one with lots of pep.
Sorry, our cars don't have pep.
Why not?
Because Americans want good mileage, not pep.
Homer, tell the nice man what country you come from.
America.
Do you hear that, you morons? This is why we're getting killed in the marketplace. Instead of listening to what people want, you're telling them what they want. Homer, I need your help.
You do?
Yeah. I want you to help me design a car. A car for all the Homer Simpsons out there. And I want to pay you $200,000 a year.
And I want to let you. I want a horn here, here, and here. You can never find a horn when you're mad. And they should all play La Cucaracha.
Can do, Mr. S.
And sometimes the kids are in the back seat. They're hollering. They're making you nuts. There's got to be something you can do about that.
Maybe a built-in video game would keep them entertained?
You're fired. What is my brother paying you for?
What about a separate soundproof bubble dome for the kids with optional restraints and muzzles?
Bullseye! And another thing, when I gun the motor, I want people to think the world is coming to an end. Rum, rum, rum!
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed stockholders, members of the press, Your Holiness, tonight we are going to witness automotive history.
All my life, I have searched for a car that feels a certain way. Powerful like a gorilla, yet soft and yielding like a Nerf ball. Now at last, I have found it.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the car designed for the average man, the Homer.
Any questions?
Okay, you laugh. But how many of you have done this? How many of you have built a company or launched a product before you knew who your customer was? You just built it because you thought this was a good idea. Raise your hands, confess. This is going to be group therapy. Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Man, this is going to be a huge group therapy session. Shout out your failures. Tell me what was your product that you came up with that you didn't have a specific customer in mind for and you failed at. Oh, now you're all quiet. Anybody want to share? Okay, go ahead. You got kicked to the curb. So you built something without actually talking to the customer. Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that. I've done it several times, even though I know better. Anybody else want to share an experience of building something without having spoken to the customer, and it didn't go so well?
We design a credit risk methodology, which likes from your friends will be enough credit validation to lend you money.
So credit risk validations with your friends giving you thumbs up, and you thought investors would give you money because of that?
Yes.
Did it happen?
Not only investors. We thought that customers will pay back, but they didn't.
And it didn't happen?
No.
Dang. This is one of the top problems of startups. We have this midnight genius idea. The world stops. We've got our idea. We build our startup, our website, our credit reporting, our peer credit, social media, voting system. And it could be a good idea, right? But we don't know. And in fact, this episode of The Simpsons came from a reality of, that's the car, by the way. It's cool, huh? It's got a bowling trophy on the hood and the bubble dome for the mother-in-law on the back. And it turns out Homer was not the representative customer of the American car. And the last scene of this episode is the Japanese car company is taking over his brother's company, and they're taking down PM Motors and putting a Japanese name on top of it. This happened back in the 50s with Ford. In fact, this episode was taken from Ford, and Ford built the Ford Edsel. That is probably the ugliest car. It's not too far from the Homer, right? And what happened was they built the car in total secret. It was named after Edsel, which was Ford's son who died. So they're building a car after his son who passed away, and they built it in total secret, and then nobody wanted to give bad feedback on it because it was named Edsel, and you can't say anything bad about your boss's dead son. So it was doomed from the beginning. Biggest launch, biggest single failure in automotive history, total secrecy. 6 years later, Ford launched the biggest success in automotive history. The Ford Mustang was the design team was led by Lee Iacocca, and they did something different. They had the idea to bring the customer into the showroom and interact with the design as they're designing it, husband-wife teams. And they pretended like you're buying a car and interacting with our design, and it became the single most successful launch in automotive history. Same company 6 years later. I've had this problem myself. Group confession, this is mine. I won a PC Computing Award. And in the inside of the magazine, it said, I won the editor's choice, but then they didn't really know what we did. So they called it the Slicer, Dicer, Mix Master Software Against You Knife of Software Products. We had built something for everybody, but not for anybody. In fact, we went back to the revenue of the company. We had sold into 85 markets across, 24 applications down, over 2,000 different niches of markets and applications. We thought we're building this rocket ship to go to the moon, and it turns out we were building something else. Pieces just started falling off this company, and we had 200 employees, and we couldn't get to profitability, and we were just levitating. We couldn't break out, except in one market. And I learned a lesson there. I learned every new technology has a first customer. The first customer of the pager was the doctor. And this is every new innovation, let's say new innovation has a first customer. So what is innovation? Here's my definition. Everybody has their own definition. My definition of innovation is the intersection of an invention, science, and market insight. The intersection of a better gadget and how the customer is going to purchase it, price it, position it, promote it, and that market insight which makes an innovation. Why is innovation important? Well, innovation is driving our economies. The knowledge economy is based on all these new opportunities. And as entrepreneurs, we're trying to create innovation to create sustainable investments. As an investor, I don't invest into a company unless it has one or multiple types of new innovation. I don't do it. It's a competitive, sustainable advantage over the marketplace. The problem is when you have a new innovation, your market may not be ready for it. And so you go in stages as you're launching into the marketplace. The first, you're innovators at the early stage, and your early adopters. These are the customers that are ready for that new innovation. They want the brand new gadget. And so you start with those customers. But once you get to this late stage, if you don't have critical mass and momentum and credibility, you never make it across that chasm and your company dies. I'm going to focus today in my comments on this early stage. And there's been a lot of research done on the late stage, and recently we've done more research on this early stage. We call it the nail it stage. So, and part of nailing it is you have many opportunities you can go after. But to nail it, you need to narrow down on one. You gotta identify where you could go and then get down to that first beachhead. Because as a startup, you don't have many resources. You have to choose where you're going to spend your precious time and money to get you across that chasm. And then as you grow, you can go to the next market and the next market. That's great. But what's your beachhead you're going to target? This is my software company, Knowlex. I chose a beachhead out of all the applications we could go after of the IT knowledge management market. And my customer was the IT help desk manager. So the intersection of your market, your customer, and your application is the first question you got to figure out in choosing your beachhead. When we launched Folio, I worked at Folio for many years as a product manager, and when I created Knowlex, I spun the technology out from Folio, and I licensed it, and we had looked at this 2,000 different boxes, and we chose this specific niche. I launched the company in August of '97. We launched with this strategy, focused on this beachhead. We raised $5.4 million of venture capital and sold the company 2 years later. Executing on that particular beachhead. We could have kept going, but we had an offer, and I got greedy, and I took it. The second way to guarantee failure is to compete head-to-head with an existing market leader without being significantly better. Let me show you what this looks like. So let's say this is the market leader here, and let's say that's Facebook. And you want to attack Facebook, and you're a path. So this is a real example. Facebook is up on the hill. And when you're up on a hill, you have an advantage. You can shoot down on your competition, and you can iterate and move fast, and you have the market going with you. And the problem Path had is you're taking on that market leader for the same customer. And this is really important. Same customer. Not only do you have to switch her, but you have to switch all of her friends. And switching costs are very high. So as your startup, going head-to-head, focusing on the same customer in that same niche is death. There are companies that have done it. They defy gravity, and it takes a lot of cash, and you have to be 10 times better to pull it off. Path tried this. They ended up being big in Indonesia, nowhere else. They ended up just being sold, and they had an A team, and when they launched, look at that. They launched with more features than Facebook. They were superior to Facebook, and it didn't matter because Facebook was the incumbent. Another way to enter the marketplace is to go create your own opportunity. Some call it blue ocean, some call it greenfield. Honeywell created a category, and they owned it for 100 years of the home thermostat. New category, totally entrenched. How in the world are you going to take on Honeywell? Well, let's talk about this idea of and some people have done it, right? Here's an example of somebody being 10 times better than the same customer. So taking on Honeywell, Nest successfully took them on and created a better thermostat. But Nest wasn't necessarily interested in just the thermostat. They're interested in the bigger market of the home automation. And think of Tesla. They're taking on GM. Tesla's not necessarily interested in just the automobile. They're going after the energy market. So this becomes a beachhead to actually a much bigger marketplace. There are other ways to enter the marketplace. In addition to the greenfield, I like disruptive innovation, and that is my favorite. So let's give a case study of disruptive innovation. So greenfield, everybody's looking to enter the market and create a new category. Facebook enters the market leader. How do you take on Facebook? How in the world do you take on this multi-billion-dollar market leader? What happened with Facebook is, as they got so big, they created opportunities in their wake. As the parents got on, the kids got off. First it was high school kids and college kids, and then as we got on, how many use Facebook in the room? About everybody? All right. So in the United States, when we got on, my high school kids said, it's not cool anymore. I'm getting off of Facebook because I don't want you watching all of my conversations. So because Facebook tried to do so much for so many people, like large companies, they left themselves vulnerable at the low end. So Instagram came in and they sold for $1 billion to Facebook. That's great. Then Snapchat entered. How many think Snapchat is a good idea? A few of you? I think it's a stupid idea. And because I'm well served on my Facebook curve, right? I'm looking down at Snapchat saying, that's a ridiculous idea. I'm going to send a text message that's going to disappear in 8 seconds. That's ridiculous, right? That's one of the problems, right? Because I'm served on my market, and these new ideas look uncomfortable to me. And Snapchat enters. They're valued at $10 billion, $15 billion. They're now valued at $25 billion. They still don't have a revenue model, so I don't really get it. But it's crazy, right? So if you're going to take on an incumbent, find an unserved, underserved, low-end customer to enter the market with. So let me give you an example of what this looks like. What does it look like to have a disruptive idea? So I'm going to just share some pictures with you. Okay, I've got this great idea. We're going to let people rent our couches in our house. Okay, that looks insane. That's dangerous. Okay, I got another idea. Let's help people take the buses. What? How hard is it to take the bus? You walk up, you get on the bus. Why in the world would I need help taking a bus? This is a silly picture to me. These are high school kids, junior high school girls in the United States. They're standing next to each other, texting each other. They're not talking to each other. This looks ridiculous. So let's go build a startup to help them do that. Ridiculous, right? And this was from my wife. You know, when we're getting married and she put all her ideas on a corkboard, let's put this online and share it with all of our friends. Like, I don't even want to look at that, let alone share those dumb ideas with all my friends. So these disruptive ideas at face value seem kind of silly. I want to give you a video and a feeling of what it feels like to be the entrepreneur out in the field by yourself, creating this disruptive startup, and get you embarrassed a little, because you're going to be embarrassed for this guy, right? Let's roll the video. All right, I've got this great idea for a startup. It's going to be great. Everybody's going to flock to me. I'm doing this. It's going to be huge. Everybody's looking at this guy like he's an idiot, right? Except this guy, who's the marketing manager. So, okay, I got a product guy with me. Okay, you and me, we're going to define this product. We're going to go out. We're going to do our customer interviews. We're going to change the world. Yeah, you and me. Well, what's our idea? I don't know. We're going to let people rent our cars. We're going to type everything we know and publish it to the world on the internet. So we get a product going. The product guy is getting in the groove. And now we need somebody to help us build this, right? So we need the engineer. All right, so I have my hacker, my engineer. I have my visionary CEO that sees things that nobody else can see. And I have my product and sales guy that's helped me figure this out. Now I need to add a few salespeople to kind of, there we go, salespeople. And we add a few more salespeople. And eventually, hey, we got a startup. Now, we still look stupid, but we look stupid together. And eventually, the market starts showing up, and hey, venture funding showed up. Woo! We got a pre-money of 10 million valuation. And when girls in bikinis start sprinting at you, you know you made it. And eventually, everybody on this field is dancing. Over 1,000 people end up doing this ridiculous dance. And when I saw this video, I said, that is a startup. That's how it works. All right, this goes on and on forever. We can cut it off. we got to cut it off before the guys in bikinis start showing up. All right, so how many feel like that guy dancing out in the field? How many entrepreneurs, right? I was talking with a guy out here, and I'm listening to his idea, and it sounded ridiculous. And I went, oh, it's probably a great idea. Can I invest? So I won't embarrass him here unless you want me to. Yeah? All right. So this the company, I grabbed your card too. Yell out your company name. Huh? E-Savings Club. And so he goes, I got this great idea. We're going to let people, 10 friends, lend $100 to each other, and we're going to create a savings club, and I'm going to give you $100, and then next month you give me $100, and next month she gives me $100, until we've rearranged our $100. A more dumb idea I haven't heard of. It's probably going to be huge. And I understand that's how savings clubs happen in Latin America. So I'm on my demand curve, right? I'm up here well served by my bank. In fact, I have a private banker, and I'm looking down at that idea and say, that looks silly. I don't get it. That's an unserved, unloved, underserved customer, but there's something that I don't understand, and I'll bet the entrepreneur up there really understands the details of that. So that couch surfing business, that's obviously Airbnb, they've grown over to now 550,000 listings. That bus-taking business, you may not have heard of it, but you will. It's Wanderoo. They're growing 400% quarter over quarter, helping millennials take the bus. And it turns out the millennials don't own cars. I didn't know this. And they have Wi-Fi in these buses that's huge. In fact, they won the CES award at this Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. This really dumb idea of helping people take the bus. And they just raised a mega venture round, and they're doing great. Helping teenagers text without Wi-Fi. This actually turned out to be a company called Jot. And Jot just closed a financing last week with Accel at a $50 million post-money valuation on helping teenage girls text each other in junior high. And it's a totally disruptive play, because what they do is they use mesh network technology, because a lot of teenage girls don't actually have access to the internet or Wi-Fi. And they use mesh networks so the phones talk to each other, and they create their own network at the high school. And it's brilliant. And they can now communicate during the day and talk. And they got national news and CNN, and they're growing like crazy. That corkboard business, that was obviously Pinterest. I still don't get Pinterest. Don't try to explain it to me. But they're growing like crazy. And in fact, Facebook's over here on the right. They're declining, and Pinterest is one of the fastest growing social networks. It's the fastest growing social network in the world, sharing your stuff and curating it online. Okay, what does that have to do with fintech? So let's get some fintech examples. Okay, let's give loans to laundromats. Let's help 20-somethings that don't have any money manage their money. Let's help people that have lots of debt refinance their debt on their credit cards, these high-risk people. Oh, I got a great idea. Let's go create a new money system. Now, Monopoly tried to do that, right? That didn't work so well. I mean, I think of printing out your own money, it's Monopoly. So I don't think that's a great idea, but maybe it is. So that loan to laundromat business, that's a company called On Deck. They went public at a $1.4 billion valuation, giving small business loans, originating loans over $3 billion this last year. 20-something wealth management, there's a slew of companies doing that. One of those is called Wealthfront. And the last private valuation I heard of was $750 million. Assets under management is growing through the roof. The credit card refinancing business, Lending Club, Cubo Financiero is an example here in Mexico, Vincente's company, and they had an IPO and valued in the billions of dollars. And we've all been talking about that new money business as Bitcoin. It's crazy how many companies are accepting Bitcoin and how mainstream that has become. And I fought with bankers over the years and said that will never happen. When somebody in the existing market tells me that will never happen, I go and I start investing in that sector because those guys don't get it. Now, the fintech sector is going crazy right now. Companies are getting funded because they've nailed their market entry strategies. And there's a lot of M&A interest in the fintech space. It is probably the most exciting investment space in Latin America right now. And what's cool about fintech is, like, if you think about taking businesses that have been founded elsewhere and moving them into another marketplace, I call it geographic innovation, you call it copycat. That geographic innovation works really well in fintech because there are massive barriers to entry. You just can't move Lending Club for the United States to Mexico. And Vincente will tell you why, because you have to set up, you have to create a new regulatory structure in country, and you can't just go from one country to the next. So you have protection and you have time to grow and build, and I think it's a very interesting space for investing. So the last piece of advice I'll give you is to, if you want to fail, is to scale it before you nail it. The poster child of this is a company called Webvan. Now, Webvan, I don't know who gave these guys money, but everybody did. They raised $830 million before they understood their business model. In fact, in their models, everything had to go perfectly in order for it to work. And how often does everything go perfectly in a startup? Never. It never goes perfectly. In fact, this is the #1 cause of startup failure, premature scaling. Now, premature scaling looks pretty... It's hard to figure this out because all these things look normal. These are good things to do. Building your beta product, building it. Oh, you didn't build your alpha product before. Oh, you didn't build your prototype. You didn't build your virtual prototype. So they're good things, but if you do them out of order, it increases your burn rate and it reduces your flexibility as a startup. Writing all your marketing materials before you've nailed your product idea. Hiring your sales team, I've done this many times, before you have something to sell. Sounds stupid, right? We all fall into these traps because there's an order and a process to getting your startup right. Increasing the odds of getting it right. Nailing it before scaling it makes a lot more sense. So this was a study that's actually done at Stanford. My co-author of my book, Dr. Nathan Furr, participated in this startup genome project and determined and found out this was actually the #1 cause. So good things out of order, premature scaling, increasing your commitment to a path where you haven't actually figured out if it's the right path or not. The poster child of this is my favorite one, is Cosmo. Cosmo raised $200 million before somebody told them the emperor has no clothes on. And what they did is they were a delivery service for anything you wanted. They would go to the store and pick up a quart of Haagen-Dazs ice cream for you and bring it to your house. But they charged you for the ice cream, but they don't charge you for the delivery service. So they burned through $280 million, and nobody bothered asking, how are we going to make money with this? And finally, they just pulled the plug on the business in the .com 2000s, and a lot of crazy stuff happened back then. Their counterexample of that is nailing it and scaling it. So Ryan, the CEO of Qualtrics, has nailed this. He had built a multi-$100-million business before he took his first venture dollar, and I think he's one of the great examples. There's many other great examples, but just to put it in summary, and on a positive note, to incrementally increase your chance of success is launch with a specific customer in mind. And not just who's the customer, but understand in depth the details of that customer. Who's the economic buyer in that organization? Who's the end user? Who's the IT decision maker? And those people make up what's called a buying panel. And understanding the buying panel in depth is really important, because you can't really understand your customer pain till you understand in context, in depth, who your customer is. We'll go, if we have a second, we'll go into the workshop if we have time. You can pull me off stage anytime. I'll go for hours. All right, the next one is choose your market entry wisely. There's lots of ways to enter the market. Low in disruption, 10x, bolt-on, and any of these are valid ways, but you have to really understand up front what is your market entry strategy, and don't sneak up on it, and don't do it by accident, and then nail it, and then scale it. So I have time, if we have time. If we're out of time, let's just end there, and I'll take a few questions. If we're not, I could walk you through a mini workshop. It's about 3 to 5 minutes, and go into detail on some of those. So is somebody, do we have 5 or are we done? Yep.
We're good?
We're good?
Yeah.
All right, we're good. All right, so.
You're going to be around during the cocktail?
What's that?
You're going to be around during the cocktail?
Yeah, I'll be around and answer questions. And so thanks a lot. Fun spending time with you, and thank you for the invitation to the conference.
Paul, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.